Welcome to the Expansive Astrology Podcast, where we look at using astrology beyond the tropes and horoscopes to tune into the natural forces around us and within us, honoring our true nature to craft our future. I'm your host, Melissa, the Self-Care Witch, and I'm here to help you meet your magic. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. It's episode 47, Cancer season 2023, and I'm so glad to be here. I'm so thankful you're here. I can't wait to share Cancer season with you. It's one of the good ones. As if I don't say that about all of them. This is one of my favorites. I really think that this work is so important for each and every one of us. I really love Cancer season. The theme for Cancer season is there's two pieces. It's touching in with the depths of our heart, with our feelings, our emotions, our most emotional self, and how we protect that part of us. Our shell, if you will, our protective outer layer. We're kind of looking at both things. With expansive astrology, each month is a little container, a little portal, and they bring us different energies, different invitations, different windows to peer through and refine, explore, empower ourselves around. And we're never the same leaving as when we entered. So ask yourself at the beginning of each season, what do you now know that you didn't know before? As we're stepping into Cancer season, leaving Gemini season, what do you now know that you didn't know at the beginning of Gemini season? What did Gemini bring to you? What did that season make clear to you? And who are you? How are you as you enter into the next season, Cancer season? As the year moves on, we're moving into more mature, deeper energy. We're growing up from that raw, pure, more simple energy of Aries at the beginning of the astrological year in March and April. We're now moving into the first water sign of the year, Cancer, and we're in a very different space. The energy is maturing. Since March and April, since the astrological new year, we've explored our relationship with ourselves and how well we know ourselves and how we operate in the world, how we claim and take up space. That's all Aries. We've explored how we cultivate that space and create security and stability for ourselves. We've explored the difference between control and power and how we embrace and receive pleasure in Taurus. And in Gemini, we've explored our relationship with our brains and our nervous system and how we think and react to things and how our relationship with our inner selves is reflected in our outer worlds. Now, moving into Cancer, where the phrase is, I feel, we get to really dig in deep and begin to explore our relationship with our emotions. We're moving into water energy, and it is a time to find rest, stillness, and a sense of home as we continue the uncomfortable, expansive process of blooming. There's duality there. It's both a time to find stillness and continue expanding as we are blooming. In Cancer, we get to take a deep dive into our value systems, our home life, our intuition and evolution, our defenses, how we relate with others, and maintain those relationships or attachments. How we occupy our space and find true comfort in that space. We're exploring what our attachments are like. Lindsay Mack says entering Cancer season is like going into the shell and determining the crab meat from the crab shell. What is you and what is not? What is you? What is the essence of you? And how do you protect that? What do you need to keep with you within your shell? And which beliefs have you picked up along the way that maybe others have given you, or maybe you took from others, or maybe you don't even know where the heck that belief came from to begin with? We get to explore all of that and get really intentional with what do you want to stick around? What do you want to bring with you as we continue to bloom, as we continue to move throughout the year? When do you feel safe outside of your shell? When do you feel safe being seen? And what do you do when you don't feel safe? How do you defend yourself when you're outside of your shell, or when you are really being seen? How do you handle vulnerability? Who do you let in with you? How do you nurture them and yourself? At the end of this season, we will be a third of the way through the astrological year. Cancer helps us wrap up the first trimester of the year, if you will, because we move through the elements: fire, earth, air, water, in that order, a total of 3 times each year. And in terms of the traditional year, like 2023, the Gregorian calendar, we're officially halfway done with 2023. How does that feel? This season allows us the opportunity to really explore how we want to show up for the rest of the year. And 2023 in numerology is the 7, and the 7 in the tarot is the Chariot, and the Chariot is related with Cancer. So this invitation is very potent. It's just deepened. It's deeper, where this season, diving deep with Cancer, is the perfect way to explore that. This is the perfect timing, the perfect opportunity to explore how this year has been going for you, how your chariot is operating, and how you want to carry on. This season brings invitations to explore our value system, our home life, our sense of foundation, and learning to love ourselves from the inside out. Finding home within yourself. Our roots. What makes you feel grounded? What is important to you? What you're attached to? And how that plays out for you. So we have plenty to explore this season. Let's talk about what Cancer is. What makes up the sign of Cancer? The energy of Cancer. Cancer is the first water sign of the astrological year, and it is our cardinal water sign. It rules the 4th house of home, and the phrase for Cancer is I feel. Cancer is ruled by the moon and Jupiter, and we have a lot of tarot energy to explore this season with the Chariot, the Moon card, the High Priestess, the Wheel of Fortune, and the Queen of Cups. So Cancer energy in its most empowered form. Some of the traits that I want you to watch out for this season and to really work to cultivate in your own world over the next several weeks. The telltale signs that you are in that empowered Cancer energy. And Cancer's superpowers, really, in general. Cancer is receptive. It is sensitive, imaginative, emotional, sympathetic. Cancer provides reassurance and it nurtures. And just as much as it nurtures, it also protects. Cancer is deeply reflective, empathetic, and reminds us of our inevitable growth and evolution through life. Cancer, especially being a cardinal sign, it is keen to new possibilities. It is brave. It lives in the moment, knowing all could be lost at any moment. Cancer energy is an empowered mother who imparts wisdom and nurtures and protects and isn't too clingy or guilt trippy or we all know like the mother dearest archetype, right? Like a mother who is like too attached or judgmental or can't fulfill their own needs. Empowered Cancer is the empowered mother. Disempowered Cancer, some expressions of Cancer energy that I want you to be aware of, to watch out for as the season unfolds. And when you find yourself in this place, in a disempowered place, you get to notice that. You get to thank it and be thankful that you noticed it. And at any moment, we get to ask ourselves, when you find yourself in a disempowered place, how can I shift this? How can I get a need met and shift this into a more empowered expression? So disempowered Cancer energy looks really insecure. It's anxious, it's overprotective, it's possessive. It's this excessive worry that leads to insecurity. Excessive defensiveness leading to suffocation, right? It leads like that excessive worry, excessive defensiveness, this like over attachment can appear really demanding. It can appear threatening. It can appear like it's too attached. So when you find yourself in a place like that, where maybe you're feeling excessively defensive, maybe you're feeling excessively needy or possessive or attached to something, you get to gently and kindly notice that and see if you can, rather than, like for example, with possessiveness, see if you can shift out of possessiveness and into connection and gratitude, nurturance, right? Because like those can be two sides of the same coin. Like perhaps you can get your need met, that whatever need is showing up as possessiveness. Perhaps you can get that need met by leaning into just simply nurturing. How can you mother yourself and mother what is important to you in a way that is accepting of others' autonomy, in a way that is detached in a healthy way? How can you feel so deeply, so much love and so much connection and so much passion? How can you feel so deeply a sense of attachment, a sense of neediness? Sure. Can you feel that and be in it and mother it and foster it in a way that isn't suffocating to you or to others? Cancer rules the fourth house of home, or in other words, the structure that surrounds us, our social values. And that's one of the many things that I'm inviting you to explore this season is your sense of home, your metaphorical structure around yourself. We started to look at this in Gemini season. Well, really, we've been looking at this since Aries season, but each season brings us a little more depth, a new perspective on the same theme. What informs your sense of home? What values do you hold that create structure in your life? What kind of home are you creating for yourself? We're also invited to explore the kind of home we grew up in, the values that we adopted from our parents, the beliefs we adopted from our parents. Exploring the ways our upbringing informs the rest of our lives. What are the standards of behavior you expect from yourself and from others? What kind of community are you creating? What we value serves as a little roadmap. Our values serve as little keys that we can return to when we feel lost or anxious or triggered or imbalanced or disconnected from ourselves. And they're reflected in all that we do, say, participate in, all that we don't say, all the things that we ignore. So we're starting off this season with a deep evaluation of our values. Remember, your values change throughout your life, and that's fine. It's to be expected. It's an important part of being human. And it's part of what Cancer invites us to look at. With the Chariot, with the crab, I think of a little hermit crab who must upgrade its shell as it grows. What is most important to you lately? What do you value? What is your shell made of? And why? Why are you doing it this way? Why are these things important to you? Are they actually still important to you? Where did that come from? Who else is this important to you in your life? How does this show up for you, and how do you show up for it? Is it still working for you? Or is maybe some other value or belief or way of being more aligned at this point? When are you and when aren't you aligned with your values? How do you know? My favorite affirmation for Cancer is, I am becoming more myself every day. I am always being guided home. So, we're starting off this season by welcoming the necessary changes and adjustments to the root system to keep us moving forward. This season is all about diving into the depths to take a closer look at our internal and external sense of home, our values, our roots, our attachments. Taking a look at those things, kind of taking inventory, making sure that it is all still aligned and it is all still working for us. And then we're also going to look at how we defend that, how we find home there, and how we defend ourselves there. So let's talk about the crab and how it is such a brilliant illustration of our sweet, gentle heart and how we protect that heart. Consider the most vulnerable, needy, childlike, pure, innocent spirited version of yourself. Get in contact with that version of yourself daily, but especially for this conversation now. Really practice listening to that version of yourself as we talk today. Our focus this season is learning to love ourselves from the inside out, deeply knowing ourselves, learning ourselves intimately within our little shell, within our chariot, and the mechanisms we use to protect ourselves. What do you hide? What do you hide from the rest of the world? What feels especially vulnerable to you? What do you hide from yourself? And what do you think has impacted that or caused that? How were the things that are deep within you met when you were young? How were the softest, sweetest, most neediest parts of you? How were they met when you were young? And how do you meet them now? It takes a lot of practice and a lot of willingness to really be with ourselves in this way, without judgment, without evaluation, without criticism, but just to be with ourselves, our neediest, sweetest selves, and just listen and hold and be in community with that part of us. And the more we can do that, the more we can build that muscle of being with our most emotional self. And the more we allow that piece of ourself to be witnessed safely by others, this builds emotional security. It builds emotional intelligence. It can build this sacred, knowing, informed relationship with our emotions, which helps to strengthen our intuition. It helps us take some more responsibility for getting our needs met effectively, asking for what we need effectively. Our emotions are not just inconvenient things that happen to us to cause fights and embarrassment and trouble in our life. They're data. They're meant to inform us and guide us. And Cancer assists us in deepening our emotional intelligence, our emotional security, which helps to deepen our connection to our intuition. It helps us to find flow in how we're moving through the world. It helps us to give our mind a break, step into flow, intuition, divine feminine, receptivity, being rather than doing. When we don't do this, when we are chronically in our mind, when we are chronically disconnected from the divine feminine, we tend to be really shut off and shut down. I think of the crab, right? The crab shell. We retreat into the crab shell where there's no receptivity, there's no trust, there's no connection. And we have our crab shell for a reason. We need to do that sometimes, maybe often. And can you have a crab shell and can you have a big old crab pinchers and also be soft and also be seen, cherished, safe? The goal is to find home from within, no matter where you are, even in the middle of a conversation or a conflict. Knowing yourself so deeply and constantly checking in, constantly nurturing yourself. I am safe. I am safe. I can protect myself. I am safe. So if you are a crab, let's first connect to what's inside. That's the emotion, the intuition, the nurturing, the inner child, the shadows. Cancer knows how to love. It is nurturing and caring and oh so loving. It is loyal, and its strength is in creating a sense of home and acceptance. And Roy Gillette says that there is this invitation to behave in everything we do as if we are caring for a child with nothing left to chance. We want our world to feel comfortable and safe, to pour out pearls of profound kindness from our deepest private selves. I love that. It feels very Cancer to me. That's what we're practicing this whole season. And that comes with risks, right? So beware of overgiving, overcommitting, giving too much of yourself, letting yourself be seen in unsafe circumstances that are only going to cause more harm. We don't want to overgive, overcommit, over nurture in those ways. And that's that often comes from a place of a fear of getting hurt, or a fear of not giving enough, or a fear of being abandoned. So just something to think about is that the nuance of giving and nurturing and cultivating and loving from an empowered place where there is plenty to give. You know what I mean? Really focusing on coming from a place of empowerment and nurturance, and not the possessiveness and fear, like I was talking about. We protect ourselves and what is important to us with our shell. We can retreat into our shell. We can bring others in there with us. We can choose which parts of us to show and which parts of us remain hidden. And we also have these pincher claws that can, reach out and snap and pinch when needed to inflict damage or cause harm or protect us in some way. And that can be a quick little pinch, or it can be a pinch and hold on, a possessive pinch, right? And that's how it starts to feel. If we hold on too tightly, it can start to feel like a pinch rather than an embrace. Remembering that just on the other side of disempowered behavior is empowered behavior. So how can you alchemize that need into something that is beautiful and healthy for all of us, for all parties involved? How can you alchemize that need to be seen and held and witnessed and loved and nurtured, and embracing that without pinching it and holding it captive in your little hermit crab shell? The crab teaches us how to do that. Notice empowered, grabby, overbearing, ineffective, unaligned behavior. Notice it. Pause. Enter into the shell and learn what deeper need was trying to be met with that disempowered behavior. What is the deeper need there? And can you reemerge from your shell with a new tactic to try? Pinchers down. And this is so important because we have to tend that wound. We have to nurture the hurt and fill it from within. It cannot be filled by loving others. It cannot be filled by proving that you are lovable to others. We have to fill it from within. And this is what we start to learn in Gemini. We take it much deeper into the depths with Cancer. And I'm going to repeat myself. We must fill that need from within. It cannot be filled by loving others. It cannot be filled by being loved by others. It is most effective to turn that urgency to care inward. So one thing that we explore is, where do I end and others begin? This is about boundaries, having a deep and knowing relationship with yourself so that you can tell, so that you know, where do I end and others begin? Because appropriate boundaries means both knowing when and where and what you won't put up with, knowing what is yours and what is theirs. No pinchers, no codependency, not taking on other people's shit, knowing how to nurture them and love them and care for them without taking on their shit. What is your responsibility and what is not? Because Cancer is way too good at giving and giving and giving without receiving in return. And often giving and giving and giving is what we're encouraged to do. It's what we're taught to do. Especially with something that is important to us, or something that we feel attached to, or something that gives us a sense of pride, or enhances our sense of self, or enhances our sense of lovability. And it is one of the most important things we can learn, is like boundaries and not sacrificing ourselves, not giving too much of ourselves, not displacing our sense of worth on something outside of us. Reclaiming that and building from there. And this leads us to like learning comfort with confrontation. Getting comfortable with confrontation without the pinchers. Like being able to engage in confrontation from a place that you can respect, from a place that is rooted in your values. Because like it or not, part of nurturing yourself and the relationships that are important to you, it requires confrontation. It's gonna come up. It's gonna come up. Learning confrontation from a place of nurturance, love, protection, but not overprotection, and not sidestepping in the face of confrontation, not sidestepping like a crab who has no choice but to walk sideways. But you have a choice. You have a choice. You don't have to sidestep. You can face things head on. You are not forced to sidestep and then use your pinchers. You can learn to be direct and loving and caring in that directness. I'm reminded of a phrase that changed my life when I first heard it. It really changed my relationship with confrontation and how I viewed confrontation. And it changed my relationship, all of my relationships, because it changed how I approached others. It changed how I approached relationships. It changed how I stood up for myself. And it's this: never miss an opportunity to teach others how to treat you. Never miss an opportunity to teach others how to love you. Don't sidestep anything. Don't sidestep. Don't try to bypass and then be forced to use your pinchers, right? Be direct. And we can learn to be direct without being defensive. And just as a little, sneak peek, looking ahead a little bit, that is a major theme in Leo season. And in the Strength card, where we step out of the Chariot and we step into the Strength card, and we're learning the intimate relationship between courage and vulnerability. We're learning how to be a lion and also be a kitty cat. Leo helps us learn how to defend ourselves without being overly defensive. So Cancer is giving us a peek at what that looks like. We're like setting the foundation for that. And next month, next season, we're like turning that up a notch. So we're looking at our sweetest, most inner, most needy, deep emotional selves and working on developing a nurturing, loving, intimate relationship with your most deepest, most private self. And I want you to consider the many ways that we defend ourselves. The shell, the pinchers, being aggressive, being passive, being an asshole, or being overly sweet. We do all sorts of things to defend ourselves. And in fact, from an evolutionary point of view, we actually don't engage in anything that we on some level feel will support us or help us. Everything we do on some level, whether it's logical or not, on some level, everything we do, we believe is going to advance us in some way. Everything we do, we believe is going to help us in some way. For example, fear of abandonment may lead to desperate attempts to feel accepted by your partner. That need for acceptance comes from a very vulnerable human place, but it may come out in disempowered, very uncute, very unhelpful ways like lashing out or picking fights, because then once the fight is resolved, you feel at ease and accepted again. So this is why it's so important to have a deep and knowing relationship with what you value most and where those things come from, because that serves as a roadmap for how you're going to show up in these situations. Is it within your values system to pick a fight when you're feeling needy? Or could that behavior be more in alignment? Could that attempt to get the need met be more in alignment with what you actually value? If you value honesty or communication or vulnerability or honesty, or can you meet that need with those values in mind rather than picking a fight? If the need is to feel connected and to get a hug and to be reminded that you're not going to be abandoned, how can you get that need met in a way that is most aligned with your values? And like I said, we build upon this in Leo season, but there is a difference between defensiveness and defending yourself. When we are defensive, we are expecting a fight. The definition of defensive is excessively concerned with guarding against the real or imagined threat of criticism, injury to one's ego, or exposure of one's shortcomings. And then there's defending, which is responding. Defending is to support in the face of criticism and to prove validity by answering arguments and questions. Defensive, we're prepared for a fight, pinchers out. Defending, we're responding, we're supporting, we're using facts. And much of our defensiveness comes from insecurity. It's right, that key term, sensing imagined threats and attacking. And like insecurity and attacking and always being on the defensive, expecting a fight, does not build self-respect. It doesn't help us love ourselves. It doesn't help us get more love from the world. Right? Confrontation is a necessary aspect of respecting yourself and loving yourself. Confrontation builds self-love. Confrontation enhances our relationships. It helps to bring us closer when done correctly, when done wisely. On the other hand, sometimes we utilize our shell to avoid defending ourselves, to avoid confrontation. So, and we utilize our shell. It's there for a reason. It's there for a reason. And we appreciate it. We love it. But noticing, having a relationship with our shell and feeling empowered when we do that. So questioning ourselves. Why are you going into your shell? Sometimes it's totally appropriate and completely okay. It's not a problem unless it's a problem. I say that a lot. It's not a problem to go into your shell unless or until it becomes a problem, right? What are you doing? What are you protecting? What are you seeking? Are you avoiding confrontation because it isn't safe? Perfect. Perfect job. That sounds like you're employing your inner empowered mother, your inner advocate, and using discretion and discernment to learn what is and is not safe for you to engage in. That's what the shell is for. Perfect. Are you perhaps being overprotective of yourself? Maybe explore that piece and see if you can safely push the edge of your comfort. Allow yourself to be seen. Allow yourself to be squishy. Allow yourself to be vulnerable as long as it's safe. Are you being overprotective of someone other than yourself? It's important to explore that too. Why might that be? It's not a problem unless or until it's a problem, but why? Is it because it's your responsibility to protect them, like they're your literal child? Or are you taking on work that isn't actually yours? Is it coming from shame? Is it coming from a deep desire to be loved and accepted? How can you meet those needs without sacrificing yourself? How can you meet those needs in a way that will build your self-respect? So with Cancer energy and with how nurturing and loving it is, just beware of the tendency to become withdrawn and non-confrontational. Be aware of a hesitation to be open and vulnerable. Notice when you're sidestepping. Notice when you're compromising or giving up on your issues and what might be operating there. Notice a tendency to people please. Notice passive aggressiveness. We're really like building on what we learned in Gemini about communication and expressing ourselves and getting our needs met. Remember to use your emotions and your intuition as a roadmap for how you communicate. This is why knowing and loving your inner crab is so important, so that we can most accurately use our emotions as guideposts, having a knowing relationship with those guideposts. You get to start to learn things like when I am feeling blank, it means blank. Like, for example, when you are feeling angry, maybe it means your boundaries are being crossed. When you're feeling hopeless, maybe it means you're needing to reconnect with the people that you love. When you're feeling frustrated, maybe it means you need to take some time away from your responsibilities. When you're feeling taken advantage of, maybe it means you need to ask for more help. Feelings are data. They're messengers. They're guideposts, and they can help us get our needs met, and they help us express ourselves. But it takes courage and willingness to listen and learn and to do that expression. So as we come to a close, I really want to invite you into a deep and thorough review of your chariot, your innards, your soft, squishy, meaty insides. Do you want to stay in this chariot? Do you want to stay in this crusty old shell? We always have a choice. We always have a choice to stay where we are or to allow ourselves to outgrow this. And part of what Cancer season brings us, part of what the chariot brings us, so this is something we're learning all of 2023, we're learning it's about knowing when we've gone as far as we can go. Having the courage to acknowledge when we have gone as far as we can go with something. And in case you need this reminder, because I think all of us need this reminder, that it's a natural and sacred and beautiful part of life is sacred outgrowing. We are always expanding. Expansion is always coming, especially in times of contraction. Especially in times of contraction, we can know that expansion is coming. And what are you keeping in your chariot? Have you chosen carefully? What needs an upgrade, or what needs to just be kicked out? What gets in the way of leaving that stuff behind? There's a lot that is required of us when we move into a new chariot. It takes bravery. It's root work. It requires acceptance for where we are and the humility to know if we can't go any further. It's a big deal. These are the invitations of Cancer season. What are you realizing about your innermost, sweetest, deepest self? And what are you learning about your shell? What do you know about loving yourself from the inside out? What do you know about protecting yourself and protecting those that you care about? How comfortable are you with being seen? How can you love yourself and know yourself more fully and more deeply? And affirm it for yourself. I am becoming more and more of myself every day. I am always being guided home. That's all I have for you, my loves. Thank you so much for being here for another beautiful, juicy Cancer season. I refrained from saying innards and outards 800 times. If you've been with me for Expansive Astrology in years past, there's something about Cancer season and talking about the crab that just makes me say the word innards a gajillion times. And I saved it for the very end. I didn't say it. Can you believe it? But I still had to sneak it in there in some way, huh? Thank you. Thank you for being here. I hope that this was helpful for you, inspiring for you. I hope you have a beautiful Cancer season. Let me remind you that I have these new virtual moon circles happening in my Meet Your Magic monthly membership. This is how my moon meetups are looking while I'm out on maternity leave. And I'm so thrilled by how maternity leave is actually enhancing the moon circles in a way. It's like enhancing what I'm bringing to the moon meetups. It's all virtual via email and on my website right now. And you have to sign up for the Meet Your Magic monthly membership in order to receive access to it. But as I am creating it behind the scenes and sitting here recording the Cancer episode of the podcast, I am feeling so jazzed and just like turned on by how I get to bring you these like Cancer invitations in a deeper way via the moon circles. That's all I'll say for now. But the depth that is being created over here is so juicy. I'm super pumped by it. To my members, I just want to send you so much love and so much gratitude. Keep an eye out for July tarot readings coming to you soon. If you are not yet signed up to receive tarot readings and virtual moon circles, what are you waiting for? You know where to find more information. Contact me if you have any reservations or any questions about it. I'd love to chat with you. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Cancer season, and I will see you in a few weeks for Leo season. Until then, take care. Bye. Now, before you go, let me keep your ear for just a moment. This week's episode is brought to you by www.theselfcarewitch.com, my bread and butter, where you can find more information on my current courses, offerings, and other fun ways to connect with myself and yourself. If you enjoyed this episode and you dig what I'm doing here, please subscribe to the podcast, rate it, and leave a review. It helps so much. And if you'd like to connect with me, head to theselfcarewitch.com. I'd truly love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.